The driver opens my door, and Connecticut winter air slaps my face as I stand before my family's estate. Through leaded glass windows, crystal chandeliers cast golden light on the Thanksgiving gathering inside. Laughter erupts, Brandon's booming guffaw rising above the rest. My fingers tighten around the leather portfolio containing documents worth more than this $12 million mansion. My hand pauses on the brass doorknob. 10 years. 10 years since I walked out of this house, dismissed as the quiet one, the daughter who didn't matter in the grand Clark family narrative. I straighten my charcoal suit jacket, Savile Row, not that anyone inside would recognize the craftsmanship. The single platinum bracelet at my wrist catches the porch light. No flashy diamonds or family crest. Nothing to announce my worth to those who never bothered to see it. I'm not here to reconnect. I'm here to reclaim what was stolen from me, not just money or position, but recognition of my value. Through the window, I spot my father holding court in his typical fashion, gesturing with a crystal tumbler while Brandon nods eagerly beside him. Mother stands nearby, smile fixed like porcelain, fingers white around her wine stem. Savannah poses for selfies in a red dress that probably cost what most people make in a month. The tableau of wealth on display makes my quiet luxury feel like a secret weapon. The knob turns under my hand. Christmas dinner, 10 years ago. The memory rises unbidden. Father's fist slamming on mahogany when I dared question Brandon's decision to expand manufacturing without securing supply chains first. If you're not contributing, you don't get a voice in this family. Father's words, delivered with surgical precision, while Brandon smirked over his bourbon. That night, freezing rain pelted my car windows as I packed everything I owned and drove toward an uncertain future. No goodbyes. No one tried to stop me. The foyer smells exactly the same: beeswax, polish, and old money. Conversations pause as I step inside, then resume at slightly higher pitches. Mother's eyes widen, father's narrow. Brandon detaches himself from a conversation with one of the board members and saunters toward me. Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence. His eyes flick to my wrist. Nice watch. Department store having a sale? The Patek Philippe on my wrist cost more than his car. I don't correct him. Hello, Brandon. My voice emerges steadier than I feel. Happy Thanksgiving. He frowns slightly at my lack of defensiveness, at the quiet confidence that wasn't there when I left. Martha, our family cook for 30 years, appears with a silver tray of drinks. Her eyes crinkle with genuine warmth when she sees me. Miss Bryony, welcome home. She offers me a crystal tumbler. Your favorite, Macallan 25. Neat. My fingers tremble slightly as I accept the glass, but steady as I take a sip. The whiskey burns pleasantly, warming me from inside. Martha remembers. Of course she does. Father's voice booms from across the room. Brandon, we need to discuss the Thompson account before dinner. He beckons my brother, completely ignoring my presence. Mother hovers nearby, uncertain whether to approach me. Savannah doesn't even look up from her phone. Just like that, I'm excluded from the pre-dinner business conversation, dismissed before I've spoken a single word. I watch them huddle near Father's study door, Brandon gesturing enthusiastically while Father nods. They have no idea who they're dealing with. No clue that the portfolio I'm clutching contains documents that will change everything. I take another sip of whiskey and allow myself a moment of satisfaction. Their perception of me as powerless might be insulting, but it's also my greatest advantage. They think I'm still the quiet daughter who ran away when things got hard. They're about to learn how wrong they've been. I linger in the hallway outside Father's study, my back pressed against the mahogany paneling. Through the partially open door, my father's voice carries with the distinctive timbre of calculated restraint. We've kept her out of grandfather's trust for a decade, Brandon. One dinner doesn't change anything. My body goes completely still. My breathing shallows. The crystal tumbler in my hand might as well be welded to my palm. Brandon's laugh follows. She has no idea the amendments we made, legally airtight. The old man thought she'd run the company someday. Father's voice drips with dismissal. Imagine she had some special insight. Thank God we fixed that particular delusion. I remain frozen, as rage builds beneath my composed exterior. Not a single muscle betrays me. They haven't just pushed me aside. They've been systematically erasing me from the family legacy. The legacy my grandfather built. The one he specifically wanted me to protect. I need to check something in your desk before dinner, I hear Brandon say. I slip into the shadows of an alcove as Brandon exits, checking his Rolex, a gaudy, diamond-encrusted monstrosity that screams insecurity. When his footsteps fade, I enter the study. Father's desk stands imposing beneath the portrait of my grandfather. I know exactly where to look. Third drawer on the right, where important documents were always kept. The folder is labeled Clark Family Trust Amended. My hands don't tremble as I photograph each page with my phone, document after document revealing the manipulation. My name, crossed out. Provisions, rewritten. My grandfather's intentions, perverted. Dinner in 5 minutes, Martha calls from the hallway. I replace everything exactly as I found it, leaving no trace of my discovery. The dining room gleams with ostentatious wealth. Crystal chandeliers, silver candelabras, fine china that costs more than most people's monthly rent. Father sits at the head of the table, Brandon at his right hand. Savannah, wearing what appears to be an entire season's worth of designer clothes at once, live streams herself adjusting the centerpiece. Perfect lighting for my followers. She murmurs to no one in particular, her face bathed in the artificial glow of her phone. Mother sips her 4th glass of wine, her eyes slightly unfocused. I see now what I missed before her drinking isn't casual. It's survival. Father stands, commanding attention, without asking for it. Before we carve the turkey, I'd like to make my annual State of the Company address. Brandon beams, anticipating praise. Savannah barely looks up from her phone. Creston Systems has had a challenging year, Father begins, but I'm pleased to announce we've finalized negotiations with a buyer. My fork pauses halfway to my plate. This is news. The company will be sold by year's end to an as-yet undisclosed entity. Father's eyes gleam with satisfaction. Brandon will maintain his executive position, with a substantial increase in compensation. Brandon interjects, not to mention the company yacht I've already put a deposit on. And, Savannah chimes in, my new influencer deals leveraging the Creston connections are already signed. I observe the tableau before me with a photographer's eye for detail. The slight flush on Father's neck, betraying excitement. Mother's knuckles, white around her stemware. The subtle shift of the family accountant's shoulders, angled away from Brandon. Everything tells a story if you know how to read it. Most importantly, Father continues, looking directly at me for the first time all evening, we'll finally be rid of dead weight, streamlined operations, no more legacy entanglements. The message couldn't be clearer if he'd written it in blood. I'm the dead weight. The family legacy, my grandfather's vision of ethical manufacturing and sustainable growth, is being dismantled for quick profit. Brandon raises his glass. To my new position as Chief Strategy Officer at the merged company. To innovation, Father says, which from his lips sounds like desecration. Savannah leans toward me, her voice sweet poison. At least now you won't have to pretend you were ever going to inherit anything. That must be a relief. Her words are meant to cut, to watch me bleed. But I've spent 10 years building armor they can't see. To generous deals, Father concludes, his glass catching the light. I take a perfectly timed sip of water, hiding the smile that threatens to break through. They think this dinner is their victory lap. They have no idea they're celebrating their own downfall. As the crystal glasses clink around me, I wonder if revealing my hand immediately would be more satisfying, or if waiting until after their self-congratulation would deliver the justice 10 years in the making. Would you unveil the truth when you first had the chance, or wait for the perfect moment when it would land with the greatest impact? The weight of the phone in my pocket with its evidence of their betrayal feels like power. For the first time in this house, power rests in my hands, not theirs, and they don't even know it yet. After the main dish, my father rises from his chair, crystal tumbler glinting in the chandelier light. The table falls silent as he lifts his glass. To family loyalty, he announces, his gaze sweeping over everyone but me, the foundation of our success. Glasses clink around the table. I notice how dinner guests shift in their chairs, casting sideways glances my way. Their pity is palpable. Mother's hand trembles as she raises her wine, liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. Her 4th glass tonight. Speaking of success, Brandon interjects, pulling his phone from his jacket pocket. Just got the final photos of the yacht. He taps the screen, then passes it to the board member on his right. 52 feet. Custom teak throughout. Teak throughout. 52 feet. The phone moves around the table, greeted with appropriate murmurs of appreciation. When it reaches the person beside me, Brandon stretches across. Skip Bryony. She wouldn't understand the value. Savannah, never one to miss performing for an audience, stands and smooths her red dress. Family photo for the followers? she chirps, holding her phone at the practiced angle that makes her jawline appear sharper. She positions herself to capture everyone except me. Clark family traditions, #blessed. The flash blinds momentarily. I take another sip of water, allowing the cool liquid to wash away the bitter taste of exclusion. My mind drifts to those first months in Austin. The barren office space I couldn't afford to furnish. Sleeping on a camping mat behind my desk, showering at a nearby gym, living on instant ramen and determination. After the family lawyers threatened legal action if I used the Clark name in business, I created B.E. Quinn, anonymous, genderless, free from family baggage. Most painful was selling grandfather's gold pocket watch. His voice echoed as I handed it over. Time is the only truly limited resource, Bryony. Spend it creating value. That watch funded my first server farm. The irony wasn't lost on me sacrificing a timepiece to buy time for my company to grow. The doubts circled like vultures those first months. What if father was right? What if I truly had nothing of value to contribute? 18-hour days became my norm. When competitors slept, I worked. When they vacationed, I expanded. All while quietly purchasing shares in Creston through shell companies, watching my family's mismanagement from afar. Martha appears at my elbow, setting down the dessert tray. As she leans to place a slice of pumpkin pie before me, her hand briefly squeezes my shoulder. Your grandfather would be proud, she whispers, her voice barely audible over the dinner conversation. He always said you were the only one who truly understood value. Her words straighten my spine. The validation I never received from my family comes from the woman who watched me grow up, who saw what they refused to see. Father stands again, tapping his knife against his glass. The candles cast dramatic shadows across his face as conversation dies down. I have an announcement, he declares, satisfaction evident in his expression. As some of you know, we've been in negotiations with buyers for several months. He pauses for effect. Creston Systems has been sold, and none of you are getting a dime. Savannah drops her phone mid-selfie. What? You promised me the PR division? Brandon's face flushes crimson. This isn't legal. I'll contest it. Father waves off their protests. The deal is done. Evertech Holdings, $57 million. A generous offer considering recent performance issues. He looks pointedly at Brandon. I set down my water glass carefully. Who's the buyer? All eyes turn to me the first time I've spoken since dinner began. Father frowns, clearly annoyed at my interruption. Evertech Holdings, he repeats slowly, as if I might not comprehend. A tech conglomerate based in... I stand, napkin falling to the floor. That's me. The room freezes. Brandon's mouth hangs open. Savannah stops mid-text. Father's eyebrows draw together in confusion. What nonsense is this? He demands. Martha enters with the coffee service, moving with quiet efficiency around the stunned dinner guests. She places the finest Limoges cup before me, first a small act of allegiance that doesn't go unnoticed. The contrast is stark. Martha's quiet respect versus my family's open dismissal. Her small gesture gives me strength for what comes next. Outside in the circular drive, James waits in the car, final papers ready. My attorney since day one in Austin, when he took equity instead of payment I couldn't provide. Another person who saw my worth when my family couldn't sub. I reach for the leather portfolio I brought with me, pulling out a thick document bearing multiple signatures from the Creston board. Perhaps I should introduce myself properly. I say, my voice steady. I'm B. Quinn, CEO of NovaBridge Systems. I slide the merger agreement across the polished mahogany toward my father. The board voted unanimously last week, 8-0. Father's face drains of color as his eyes lock onto my company's logo, a stylized bridge spanning a rising Sunday. The same image grandfather had sketched decades ago for his original vision of Creston, before father transformed it into something unrecognizable. That's not possible, he whispers, but there's no conviction in his voice. For the first time in my life, I watch certainty drain from him, like water through open fingers. Father sets his hands down with trembling fingers. All eyes lock on me as I stand, the portfolio open on the table, revealing the truth that's been 10 years in the making. I built NovaBridge from nothing. I say, my voice steady as I maintain eye contact with each family member in turn. While Brandon was buying yachts with company funds, I was sleeping on my office floor in Austin. I slide the first document across the polished mahogany. Mother reaches for her reading glasses, her expression shifting from shock to something I haven't seen in years, perhaps pride. 240 million in valuation. Built client by client, contract by contract. I place a finger on the quarterly report. While father was dismissing me as inconsequential, I was securing capital investments from the very suppliers Creston had alienated. Brandon lurches forward. This is corporate espionage. You stole our clients. Number. The word falls between us like a gauntlet. I extract another document and slide it toward him. These are legally executed contracts with former clients who left Creston after your mismanagement. Would you like me to detail which ones abandoned ship after you failed to deliver on 3 consecutive promises? Father's face reddens. I'll invalidate this sale. The board would never. The board voted unanimously. I produced the meeting minutes, complete with signatures. After Brandon's embezzlement was discovered, $280,000 to be exact, they were eager for new leadership. After Brandon's times embezzlement, his mouth opens, then closes. In the silence, I hear Savannah's phone drop to the table. That's a lie, father says, but the words lack conviction. I remove a USB drive from my portfolio. The forensic accounting report is quite thorough. Would you like me to play the recording of the emergency board meeting where your CFO detailed the irregularities? Father looks around the table, suddenly aware of the dinner guests witnessing his unraveling. The corporate facade he's maintained for decades cracks before my eyes. The doorbell chimes. Perfect timing. That would be James Harrington, my attorney. I stand as Martha appears at the dining room entrance. Mr. Harrington is here, Miss Brioni. Shall I show him in? Martha's eyes gleam with satisfaction. Please do. Martha returns moments later with James, who carries a slim leather briefcase. Without being asked, Martha brings father's reading glasses from his study. James nods to me before addressing the table. Good evening. I have the transition documents ready for signatures. Brandon's face pales as he finally grasps the full legal implications of his actions. You can't possibly think I'll sign anything. Your signature isn't required, James says, placing documents before father. The board's approval supersedes management in cases of malfeasance. Malfeasance? Brandon sputters. That's slander. I lean forward. It's only slander if it isn't true. Would you like to explain the wire transfers to your account in the Caymans, or shall I? Brandon's bluster deflates. He glances at father, looking for rescue that doesn't come. Savannah's influencer persona drops away as she calculates her sudden financial vulnerability. What about my contract as brand ambassador? Terminated as of yesterday, I reply, along with the expense account that funded your Aspen trip last month. Father grasps at his remaining authority. This is my company. I built it from. Grandfather built it, I correct him quietly. You were its caretaker, and you failed. The dinner guests shift uncomfortably as they witness the collapse of the family dynasty. Across the table, I notice Mother's hand steadying for the first time tonight. She catches my eye and gives a nearly imperceptible nod. When Savannah begged to be the face of my rebranded company, I hesitated. Would including her in some capacity honor my grandfather's belief in family, or would it perpetuate the toxic patterns I'd worked so hard to escape? James slides the final document toward father. This acknowledges transfer of operational control, effective immediately. Father stares at the paper as if it might bite him. You think you can run Creston better than I can? I know I can. Starting with reversing the outsourcing decision that cost us the Westlake contract. The pen wavers in his hand. Behind him, I notice Mother watching with an expression I can't quite read. She catches my eye and mouths something that looks like, after dinner. Brandon shoves back from the table. This is ridiculous. I'm calling our lawyers. Savannah stands too, already punching numbers into her phone. My agent needs to hear about this. Only father remains seated, diminished in his tailored suit, the magnitude of his failure settling on his shoulders like an invisible weight. He looks up at me with unfamiliar uncertainty. What happens now? He asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Before I can answer, Mother speaks, her voice clearer than I've heard all evening. Bryony, might I have a word with you privately? After dinner? The request hangs in the air, unexpected, intriguing. What does she know that I don't? I nod. Of course. After 10 years of silence, it seems my mother finally has something to say. Father leans forward across the polished conference table, his voice softening to a tone I haven't heard since childhood. Brioni B., he says, using my old nickname like a skeleton key to unlock doors long sealed. Let's be reasonable about this. Keep the company if you must, but surely there's room for family. His smile stretches too tight across his face. Brandon nods eagerly beside him. The same bobblehead agreement I've seen at every family gathering when father speaks. I could advise on operations, Brandon offers, his voice pitched for sincerity, while his eyes calculate his survival. Keep my current lifestyle arrangements, of course, but lend my expertise where needed. I resist the urge to ask what expertise he means exactly, the ability to sink $300,000 into a yacht, while the company's infrastructure crumbled perhaps. Savannah looks up from her phone, suddenly interested. My followers would go crazy for a corporate girl boss redemption story. I could be the face of whatever rebrand you're planning. Father clears his throat, playing his final card. Your grandfather believed in keeping business in the family. He'd be disappointed by this. Vindictiveness. The words land with precision, aimed at the little girl who once trailed after grandfather through the factory floor, memorizing part numbers and supply chains while Brandon and Savannah stayed home. I open the leather portfolio on the table. The sound of the clasp releasing echoes in the sudden silence. Grandfather gave me this the summer before he died. I slide out a yellowed document, its edges worn soft from the years I'd kept it hidden. The original trust document. The one you told the attorneys was lost after his death. Father's face drains of color as I lay it flat on the table. He knew you'd try to exclude me. That's why he gave me my copy directly. I trace my finger along the faded text. Section 4, Paragraph 3. My granddaughter Bryony, Elizabeth Clark, shall receive controlling interest in Creston Systems upon reaching the age of 30, regardless of intervening management decisions. Brandon lurches forward. That can't be legal. It's notarized, witnessed, and filed with the state. My voice remains calm. I didn't use it because I wanted to succeed on my own terms, not because I couldn't. I turn another page in my portfolio. Nova Bridge wasn't a random name. Nova means new. Bridge honors grandfather's original vision for Creston building connections between technologies, not exploiting them for quick profit. Mother watches me, her wine glass untouched for the first time tonight. Grandfather knew exactly who understood true value. I lay out my restoration plans, the innovation division that would rehire engineers Brandon had fired, the legacy product lines father had abandoned despite their steady profitability. This isn't about hurting you, I say, surprising myself with the truth in those words. It's about rebuilding what matters. Father leads us to his study, the inner sanctum, where family decisions were always made without me. The hunting prints on the walls, the leather chairs positioned for men taller than I am, the heavy curtains blocking natural light, everything designed to intimidate. James places the final acquisition papers on grandfather's mahogany desk, the same desk where father had once told me I didn't deserve a voice. You can't possibly understand this business. Father attempts one final grasp at authority as I lift the pen. You've been gone 10 years. I sign my name with steady strokes. Your manufacturing costs increased 18% while quality control decreased 22%. Your server infrastructure is running on systems 3 generations out of date. You're paying triple market rate for cloud storage because Brandon canceled the IT director position to fund his boat. The Austin distribution center operates at 30% capacity because you refused to invest in automation that would have paid for itself in 14 months. And you're hemorrhaging talent because you cut the equity program that grandfather established. The scratch of my pen on paper punctuates each point. Father's mouth opens, then closes. I reach for the nameplate on the desk, Donald Clark, CEO, and slide it into the drawer. From my portfolio, I withdraw a polished brass plate, aged but recently restored. William Clark, founder, grandfather's original, I explain, placing it at the desk's center. Brandon storms out, muttering about lawyers. Savannah follows, already scheduling damage control with her manager. Father stands alone in the room that once amplified his power, now diminished by truth and documentation. The board wants a full audit. I tell him, closing my portfolio. Brandon's financial decisions will face particular scrutiny. My words hang in the air between us, neither threat nor promise, simply fact. As father finally leaves, mother remains seated in the leather chair nearest the window. Her hands rest in her lap, steady for the first time all evening. Bryony, she says quietly, we need to talk. I look at this woman who stood silently by while her husband dismantled her father's legacy, who watched her daughter drive away in freezing rain 10 years ago without a word. What has she known all these years? What silent calculations has she made behind that porcelain smile and crystal wine glass? The grandfather clock in the corner ticks steadily forward as we face each other across decades of unspoken truths. The morning sun streams through floor-to-ceiling windows as I settle into my chair at Novacrest Technologies. My fingertips trace the engraved brass nameplate on my desk. Brianne Clark, CEO. 6 months since Thanksgiving dinner, and this still feels surreal. The muted chime of my intercom breaks the silence. Miss Clark, your 9 o'clock is ready. Thank you, Eliza. Send them in. My leadership team files in 6 department heads, whose talents had been overlooked by traditional corporate structures. A former military strategist who couldn't break into management because she lacked an Ivy League degree. A brilliant programmer who'd been relegated to maintenance work because of his unconventional appearance. These are my people, the underestimated ones. Unlike my father's oak-paneled fortress designed to intimidate, my office features glass walls and open spaces. No portraits of stern-faced ancestors, judging from gilded frames instead, candid photos capturing team celebrations and project launches. Our quarterly numbers display on the wall screen, company value up 17% since acquisition. Not through cutthroat tactics, but through innovation and ethical partnerships, proving worth doesn't require crushing others. Later that afternoon, I enter our newly redesigned boardroom for the quarterly strategy meeting. Where Father's rectangular mahogany table once created a hierarchy with him at the head, our circular design ensures every chair holds equal weight. No power position, no silent corners where voices disappear. Before we begin, I say, I'd like to hear concerns about our expansion timeline. A junior analyst raises her hand tentatively. The vendor transition schedule seems aggressive. We might need another week for proper testing. 10 years ago, at a Christmas dinner, my father slammed his fist when I raised similar concerns. I'd been silenced, dismissed. Today, I nod and lean forward. Let's explore that. What specific risks do you see? As she outlines her thoughts, gaining confidence with each point, I catch my reflection in the polished table surface. The woman looking back bears little resemblance to the girl who fled a decade ago. Same eyes, but steadier. Same voice, but certain. When the meeting concludes, the team disperses with clear direction and renewed energy. No one leaves feeling diminished. The evening brings a small gathering in my penthouse. James, who believed in me when I arrived in Austin with nothing but determination. Martha, who retired from the family estate to become my executive assistant. And Mother, now 6 months sober, her hands steady as she arranges fresh flowers in a crystal vase. To building rather than breaking. Mother raises her sparkling water, her voice stronger than I've ever heard it. The woman who once disappeared into wallpaper now mentors women entrepreneurs through our foundation, turning her decades of survival into wisdom that guides others. We clink glasses as the city lights twinkle below us. After they leave, I stand before the illuminated display case in my office. Inside rests my grandfather's battered laptop, the one he used to draft his first business plan in 1978. Beside it, I place his gold pocket watch, which I repurchased last month from the pawn shop where I'd reluctantly sold it 10 years ago. My fingers rest on the glass as I consider tomorrow's foundation meeting. We're finalizing the Clark Innovation Scholarship funding for brilliant minds without connections or pedigrees. Students like I once was, with vision but no voice. Mother has taken an active role in the foundation, channeling her regret into purpose. Brandon faces indictment for financial improprieties. Father lives alone in a smaller house, his empire gone. Savannah posts fewer selfies and more substance lately. Perhaps witnessing consequences has sparked growth. As I placed my grandfather's watch beside his laptop in the display case, I wondered what matters most in legacy. Reclaiming what was taken, or creating something entirely new that honors the past while building the future. What would you choose to focus on if you were standing in my shoes? The answer seems clearer with each passing day. Legacy isn't what you inherit, it's what you build.